Game Day 1, the show. We welcome you here. Kevin Devaney Jr., joined by Ryan Moss, my co-founder of Game Day 1. Very exciting time. Very exciting time for us to, to be sports fans that we are, local sports fans, talking high school basketball. We had the first ever newsletter came out today. I hope you all subscribed. If you haven't, you can do so on kdjblog.com. And we have a whole lot more in store for you, not just with this show that we're going to be producing. We're producing one for each class, but a whole lot more. Boys basketball, girls basketball around the corner as well. Ryan, thanks so much for joining me, man. How's everything going over in, where do you live, Rybrook?
I'm over in Rybrook. We got the Blindbrook Trojans, chugging through the Class C schedule or Class B or whatever the classifications are these days that nobody will ever understand, and parents ask me about all the time, and we hope for the best. But
They've done well. Blindbrook went to Blindbrook at the B show, but they've been pretty good. I think they've done a nice job.
Yeah, no, listen. They're a tough team. They play that traditional Blindbrook style. I know we're in the Class A show now, but it's a good basketball town, and the community supports the hoops team pretty well. But look, we're moving into the heart of the basketball season, county center time. No better time of the year. Excited to get into it with you, bud.
No, absolutely. Community basketball programs. That's what we talk about in the Class A show here right now, because this is exactly what you have. Pearl River is our bracketology standings through Monday's games. Pearl River, they beat Eastchester, so they furthered themselves as the number one team in Class A. In the standings, you have Rye, another good basketball town, Byram Hills, my hometown, Hastings. Really no true surprises on this list. Maybe there's a couple. We'll get into some of the surprises on where they're listed right now. But let's get ourselves started with this Class A breakdown as we head down to the final 11 days of the Section 1 basketball season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as somebody who, a lot of the teams and, I feel like A and B sort of play each other throughout the year just because they're sort of a weird mix there. But, I've seen some of these teams, it seems like a really interesting group. Pearl River sitting at the top. I feel like for a lot of the Westchester folks, we might not be as familiar with them. It seems like from the teams they've beat, they seem like the clear front runner, but, I'll let you sort of, give me your thoughts on them leading into the playoffs.
Yeah, right now, I'm not betting as Pearl River for a variety of reasons. Aiden McKay has been really the breakout star, really probably the breakout star in Rockland County this year, and maybe across Section 1. He has just sort of taken on that central role that we've seen Pearl River over the years. They've always had that guy that could just score anywhere, anytime, and he's that guy for the Pirates. And they're a team that has really bought in on the defensive end like they've done every year that Jerry Houston's been the head coach of this team. And right now they've positioned themselves at 14-2. Only 4 games left. They have a big matchup on the road at Tappan Zee on Wednesday. Even if they lose that, they're still looking at the number 1 or 2 seed, which is everything. When you think about the way things break down in a basketball tournament of this size, the last thing you want to do is leave your home gym. And the last thing you want to do when you're a Rockland County team is leave Rockland County. And Pearl River will not have to do that to get to go to the Westchester County Center and play in the Final Four and play for a championship, which has been a championship that has really eluded this program, for over the decades. They've watched Tappan Zee kind of have this little dynasty and have this run. They've made the final, losing to Byram Hills way back in the day under Coach Jerry Houston. And they feel this is their best opportunity. This is their best time. They have the team to do it. And right now they're sitting atop the standings.
No, that's great. Great information. I don't personally, as somebody who's on the other side of the river, it's not a team I've watched a lot. So, sort of as a casual Section 1 fan, it's awesome to sort of learn a little bit about these stars that, we're not necessarily seeing on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. Now, after Pearl River, it seems to get kind of interesting, right? Yeah. You have some of these schools like Rye, Byram, Ardsley even, that have had success a lot over the past decade. It seems like that middle of the pack is going to be really tough to separate. Who do you see really as the top contender, the top challenger to Pearl River?
It's like all of them. It's like all of them on a given night, because every one of them has a star player who could just carry the load, right? If you look at even down to the top 7 teams, let's start with Rye, right? So Rye, you have to say is the top contender, even with them losing to Byram Hills on Friday night on the road. They are probably the toughest matchup because they're just a physical, grinded out, defensive style team. Jake Kessner, a lot of these names you're going to hear, a lot of them are football players as well, which won a state championship. So, you have Jake Kessner, Carson Miller, Andrew Wilmark. They're a team that Kessner's averaging 15 points a game. After that, they've got about 6 or 7 guys in that 4 to 9 point range, which is not only valuable in the sense that, everyone can contribute, everyone can score a little bit. They're such a hard team to match up with because even there really is no matchup physically for Jake Kessner because he's about 6'3" and about 225 pounds, and he's built like an ox, right? And he can shoot the three. So you put a big on him, he's going to take you outside. You put a smaller guard on him, he's going to take you down low, and that's really where they are. Byram Hills, I'm going to put them in the conversation right now, even though they've had their ups and downs. But again, they've got a guy. They've got Tyson Repa, coach's son, and he's just a smooth stroke lefty player. Led them to the section championship game last year, losing to Valhalla in Class B, and Zachafobi inside. That's a dynamic duo. That's a type of tandem that wins when it matters in late February and March in Section 1. And then you go down the road. Keith Capuano at Hastings, and we'll talk about him in a moment. But, Justin Watkin at Ardsley, just another guy who's just capable of putting up 25, 30 points on a given night. When you have a guy that can put up huge numbers like that, you're a threat in a win-or-go-home situation in a playoff. And those teams are all looking at home playoff games. And, this is a very deep and very talented class.
Yeah, I mean, I know you mentioned Hastings in there, and I know personally, I'm a Pleasantville guy, and I can remember back, 20 years ago when Bob Delavovi was coaching there, and sort of seeing what he's able to do in developing these kids and kind of making the most out of his talent. And I saw Hastings play at Blindbrook last week, and the thing that really struck me was their overall size and strength, and they just really didn't. They didn't have much weakness across the board on the defensive side. Capuano can really, he can score the ball. They have, I'm blanking on his name right now, but their power forward down low.
Max
really
Barry, yep, terrific.
And he can put the ball in the bucket, on putbacks. So that's a team that, to me, looking at a potential playoff matchup, that's not a team that I want to see.
Yeah, so they're going to be on the smaller end of school size in Class A. And a lot of these schools are going to be they sort of are just on that borderline to be even a Class B team. If they're in Class B, I think they're the heavy favorite to win the section championship. They're really not that far off numbers-wise. But Keith Capuano, he's just a guy who's just, he's going to do what it takes to win, right? So he's a college-bound football player. He's going to play at Wesleyan. He is built really strong. He's a guy who can go and muscle with the Jay Kessler type. But when you look at the other pieces on this team, they're sort of rounding into form. They're a team that when you look back in early December and watch film, and then you watch film in early February, you're going to be like, is this the same team? Because that's what Bob Delavovi does. I mean, that's what great coaches do. You find the identity of your team and you make it work. And we talked about this team in the newsletter today, just about how they are just continuing to improve. And if you had your preconceived notions about them going into the winter break, just sort of forget it, because they have turned a corner as a team, beating Woodlands, beating Blindbrook this past week, and some big matchups left to go, but they're a team that's probably going to settle into that first top 4 seeds if all things go correctly.
Yeah. And I feel like this is the class that the changes in classifications really kind of affected the most, where you used to have Hastings Dobbs is a big rivalry, right? And that rivalry's gone. So you have a team like Hastings that isn't, normally playing a team like Rye. So maybe they're not as familiar with each other, which makes the Hastings a little more dangerous than they might normally be. But kind of talking about the reclassifications, is there any deep sleeper you can think of who maybe has done well in the playoffs, maybe won a gold ball recently that might make some noise in these playoffs?
Won a gold ball recently, having a tough season, maybe defending state champions. How about this team number 10, Tappan Zee, right? So Tappan Zee is going to be the team that nobody is going to want to face. And, listen, you've heard all about the struggles of this team. Just remember the key thing. This is they graduated 3 starters from last year's state championship team, which was an unforgettable Hoosiers-like state championship run. They lose to three key players, but remember, they did bring 2 of them back. They haven't played collectively. Jack Bacone and Linehan have only played 0 minutes so far this season because of injury. Both of them are coming back. And they think Bacone is going to be back sooner rather than later. Linehan could be following not far down the road, get them some reps going into the postseason, and all of a sudden, Tappan Zee is Tappan Zee again. I don't know if they're going to win another state championship. I don't even know if they're going to win another gold ball, but they're going to beat a team that's ahead of them in the standings in the playoffs, if not two. And listen, they're at number 10 right now. And even if they lose to Pearl River and they string together some wins, that 8-9 slot for them is very, very possible, and that would mean going to Pearl River, which is the last thing Pearl River should want to see in the postseason, is TZ coming into their gym. They're supposed to have an easy road to the county center, right, and it's just going to get a whole lot tougher if TZ settles
right.
into
So
that.
Poor Westchester team's supposed to have to travel 45 minutes to go play them, right?
The great advantage neutralized. The Rockland refs, all those things are neutralized when you bring in TZ.
I mean, and also Tappan Zee, I mean, you talk about, yes, they graduated some guys, who were obviously key players, but I mean, when you have a team that was holding teams to 18 points a game? Like it was
it was in the low 30s, yes.
Yeah, the defensive mentality, that mindset, that sort of part of the culture, that's why you build that, right? That doesn't necessarily graduate with, everybody who leaves, right? That's something that's always going to stay there. And in the playoffs, teams get tight. Tappan Zee's been there. I fully agree.
Defense travels, but so does something else. And this is the other team I want to talk about is Lakeland, right? So Lakeland right now is the number 15 seed. Don't forget, this is probably the most talented and deep three-point shooting team in maybe Section 1. And we saw it. They had 21 three-pointers in a win over Sleepy Hollow at home. They had 13 threes in a loss on Monday to Rye. They're a team that is very, very dangerous. They have 5 to 6 players who could shoot the three ball, and that is a scary, scary thing when you got a playoff team coming in. They're gonna be on the road probably in the first round. They're able to get to their out bracket. They'll be on the road. They're a very dangerous team. Another dangerous team. I still think Pleasantville is pretty talented at the number 12 spot. Nyack is not going to be an easy out, and to me, the team that could really bust the bracket is Hen Hud. I think Hen Hud. They have a win over Rye on their resume, which is right now they're the 7, Rye's the 2, so that could be a quarterfinal matchup. Gino Womack is just a terrific all-around player and really carried them in the game against Peekskill that I saw. Heady's another guy who's just an electric outside shooter, so they have pieces as well. I do think Nanuet down at 18, if you want to get into the deep sleeper range, they really muck games up. They're a very good defensive style team, so they're another one that could be challenging. This is all going to be about how the bracket finally falls. It's still too early right now, even in looking at it, to sort of have strong opinions about who's going to make a run, because it's all going to be about how the bracket falls.
Yeah. No, one thing I have to say about this class that I love as, the parent of 2 young boys, and I see, kids specializing in sports at such a young age these days, so many multi-sport athletes. You talk about football players on the basketball court and sort of how that translates for defense and toughness. And you see those schools like Pleasantville and, Keith Capuano at Hastings, where they might not be the top 3 seeds, but those are tough kids that you're not going to want to play in the playoffs.
No, Pearl River's got football players. Rye's got football players. Hastings, obviously. So, it's sort of an identity in this class to have multi-sport, tough physical athletes that comprise your roster. But Ryan, man, this was fun. Let's do this again as we get closer to the playoffs. Maybe next week we'll do another one. We'll focus on Class A, because this is going to be the one. We'll know a lot more in a week when you have the Pearl River Tappan Zee matchup. We'll see if Tappan Zee gets their star guards back, and things will really be falling into place.
Yeah, absolutely. This was great, Kev.
All right, Ryan. Have a good one.